Well, I'd like to turn our attention now to the Bartender's Manifesto, because as I was getting ready for this conversation, one of the things that uh, I noticed as I was reading this book is that it sort of got me excited about cocktails in a way that I haven't totally been excited about them recently. And I think it's, you know, one of the things that you say in the book is that, hey, if you need a technical manual, we'll talk a little bit about technique in here, but really go pick up these folks who've already written the masterful technical manuals. They'll teach you how to make a basic cocktail. I'm going to teach you how to think like a bartender, and how to um, design like a bartender and iterate like a bartender, and also to be persnickety like a bartender, and so that you learn to notice these fine grained distinctions that take a drink from like a B plus to an A plus, right? Um, so can you talk about some of the philosophies in that book that that you put forward? Particularly, I'm really interested in the two of comfort and curiosity, which I know we've already kind of briefly mentioned in this conversation.
Yeah. So the book is broken up into two things. The first part is about the fabrication of cocktails, and actually how, not the creation, but the building of cocktails and all of the techniques and the thought process behind that: balance, texture, temperature, aroma. And then the second part is how I look at creating a cocktail. And there's certain things that happen in my brain, and I teach to the other people, that kind of is a descending order of the need of how to look at the creation of a cocktail. So the first one is inspiration and intention, right? So I mean, the first one would actually be intention. Like, what does this drink need to be? If this drink, are you making it for your cousin's 21st birthday pool party, or is it for your 70-year-old uncle's party at the Explorers Club in Manhattan? Those drinks are not interchangeable. So you have to understand what the drink is supposed to do. Is it on a menu that goes from accessible to adventurous? You need your your patio pounders and your super easy fun drinking things, and you need the weird stuff that's going to um, lend itself to a completely different clientele and such. So that's my first thought. So and then the inspiration, it can be what the weather's going to be like, what is in season. It could be a painting you saw at an art museum, or a really beautiful sentence that you just read in a novel. Inspiration is a peppering of a lot of different things. And um, then we talk about comfort and curiosity. There are drinks that, and even more so than, right, accessible and adventurous, comfort and curiosity is a drink that just makes sense, and is easy, and it makes you feel good and happy, and like that can be nostalgia, that can be something that's just, I really don't talk about flavor in the manifesto at all, because flavor is so subjective, and it doesn't matter. Balance of flavors matters, but flavor itself doesn't matter. So, but it does work in things like comfort, especially. Like, I've always had uh, root beer bitters as part of my programs, because I don't even like root beer, but the smell of root beer is so nostalgic, and it's really Proustian. And or Ratatouille, who I'm wearing today, my Ratatouille shirt. Um, and that is that sort of thing where this drink is like, right? And then there's curiosity, where you have a drink and you take a sip and you're like, what the actual fuck is going on? It could be because it's so foreign and weird in texture, or bitterness, or in some way that it doesn't, it's served in a glass that it doesn't, it tastes like one thing. It tastes like the pool party, right? But it's in a glass that looks like the 70s business lunch or vice versa. And there's something that sparks you intellectually. So comfort, right, is the heart, curiosity is the head. That is, and if you can figure out a way to put a little bit of each of those into a cocktail, you're really cooking with gas.
Mm. So you think of comfort and curiosity as something that you're balancing, and I assume that there's some cocktails where the comfort's going to take the driver's seat, and some where the curiosity is going to take the driver's seat, right?
Absolutely, yeah. But again, trying to layer a little bit of each in there, and it could be 90-10 one way or the other, but like, again, with that dichotomy of opposites, we call that juxtapositioning or mirroring, where if you have something that smells like winter, you also have something that tastes like summer. Those are the sort of things that you can layer into a cocktail that creates interest and curiosity.
So this might be a difficult question to answer, but I mean, one solution would just be go out, get the Bartender's Manifesto and read through it, right? If you want to learn how to make this approach that you're describing native to the way that you think about cocktails. So listeners, definitely go out and pick it up. I can't recommend it enough. But is there any other way to sensitize yourself as either a home bartender or a professional bartender? Because that's our audience is pretty much like 50-50. We got a lot of home cocktail nerds and a lot of professional bartenders who listen in. Are there any tips or tricks or things that you found helpful to sensitize yourself to these either those opportunities for inspiration, or to kind of notice when your drink needs some of that comfort to balance out the curiosity, or vice versa?
I mean, if a drink, again, that goes to intention. I mean, if that drink is just supposed to be, a Tom Collins, I love a Tom Collins. It's not going to I mean, it tastes like adult lemonade, right? So maybe there's some comfort in there or something, but that's not a drink that has a lot of oomph to it in either one of those. But a little bit, a couple of dashes of grapefruit bitters, or something really floral, or something can ramp that up. Um, I think that I think I've almost lost the plot on your question, but I think that the biggest thing is, you know, paying as much attention to the world around you, and finding interesting things in every aspect of your life that can be in one way or another modified and show ends up showing in the creation of your cocktails. And that could be as silly as a sunset, or as deep as your favorite novel.
Right. Yeah. No, I really do think that it's a slowing down, and it's hard to describe that to people as like part of a creative process. It's almost like saying it's like, well, if you're not feeling creative enough, you should be more creative, right? But the creative process really is it's sort of like a quality of attention. I think, like a slowing down and attention to detail in a in a in the moments where you're not required to be, right? I feel like when somebody is designing a cocktail for a menu launch or for a cocktail competition, I work with a lot of cocktail competitions, and I see bartenders struggling uh to create these cocktails, and at the end you see this forced creative process where they're like, well, this ingredient represents this, and then
Mm-hmm.
this ingredient, well, this represents this, and it's like, well, I feel like you just beaten me over the head with this cocktail to the point where I can't enjoy it. Like it doesn't feel like it's actually creative. It feels like it's trying to check all these boxes, where I feel like to engage with these philosophies, these mindsets that you've described in the Bartender's Manifesto is almost just it's almost seems more like it's shifting the way that you're looking at the world as a way to find these little pieces of inspiration. So I think I think it's just so well balanced, and I'm going to go back and read it over again because I got so much out of it, and I feel like there's even more that I haven't gotten out of it yet.
Thank you very much for that. That is high praise indeed. I'm blushing a little. Um, you know, it first and foremost to shout out to Emma Jansen, because she was such a huge part of that book that she took all of these crazy disparate things that were in my head and actually structured it and made it into something that people are really enjoying.
Mm.
But yeah, the creative process is it's opening up your mind and your senses to try to find those little things. And I think a lot of it is both paying attention or not paying any attention and like relaxing into things, and then but knowing when something is like makes your brain fizzy or like, makes you tingle a little bit, like, and trying to figure out what that is and what it's doing to you and how you could use that idea in something else.
Yeah, it's almost like if the search beam is always on super intense, it becomes insufferable and you miss the
Mm-hmm.
forest for the trees. But if you can warp between that relaxed the relaxed gaze and the search beam attention on things that really tickle you, then I think that's kind of a really nice way to put it. I don't know if there's a way for us to maybe go through this process. Is there a way for us to sort of like, could we do a case study, or is there anything on your current menu that kind of demonstrates this in actual detail?
um how about this? Okay, so with the Violet Hour, what we eventually did was we had 20 drinks on the menu. It was split between shaken and stirred, and we would give everybody like a little prompt or something. We would say, we want you to create an agave drink, and we could say either smoky or not smoky, um, and we want it to be shaken. This is going to be for the fall. And then our menu was, the first was the most accessible, the last was the most adventurous, and then we'd be like, so how about somewhere around drink 6 or 7, right? So it's got a little bit more room to be a little bit weird, but it's not just straight what the hell is going on here.
Mm.
So why don't we take something like that and kind of go back and forth and talk through like, what it would be like to create something like that. So, right, so if we start with inspiration and intention, we kind of have fall, but like the thing that I would say there is, what does fall mean to you? Like, give me a couple of words that
Mm.
when you think of like where is it? Fall in the Rockies? Is it fall in the Pacific Northwest? Is it fall in El Paso, Texas? Like,
Sure.
give me some
Yeah.
ideas of what that means to you.
If I were creating this drink, fall to me is Western Massachusetts, where I grew up, and to me, the things that I associate with fall are almost like this a change in the quality of the light. To me, is something that always strikes me as being, instead of having the sun just beating down, suddenly you have angles to the light again, and you see things sort of differently. And then obviously there's there's the change in decomposition that kind of has with it all these different aromas and connotations for me.
Very cool. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so um going back to what you said, like, let's try not to beat people over the head with like the idea. Okay, so we want to take leaves and then put leaves into Applejack, and I love Applejack, and right, and then do something with some sort of yellow fruit that's going to give that kind of soft light. So um I like the idea of decomposition is super interesting to me, like,
Hmm.
and what has that kind of forest floor aspect to it. Like, there's Luxardo kind of has a rainforest floor. There's some Amaros that kind of have that like smoky, leafy sort of note going on.
Yeah.
Um, but let's start with, why don't you give me two, like, we know we've got agave.
Right.
I think that, I think a reposado tequila would be a good way to start as the base. And then we need like half an ounce to a quarter of an ounce of one other spirit that you feel is something that reminds you of fall. And it can be kind of anything.
Well, and the reposado tequila is great in this context, right? Because it means that you can go agave or agave adjacent, or it means because there's barrel on it, you can go pretty much anything barrel, right? So
Sure.
I think having the reposado tequila as sort of like the stated base spirit in this gives us a lot of flexibility. Um, I kind of I would almost want to go with something that has, but this is gonna be shaken. Is this
Yes,
going to be
I think
served
so. We
up
haven't gotten
or?
to where we haven't
Uh
gotten to where that,
huh.
so eat. Yeah, this is I can't say that choose your own, because they're super litigious, but this is a kind of choose your own story, and every decision you make is going to affect every other decision down the
Right.
road. So, and there
Right.
are no wrong decisions. So
Well, I'll tell you, my inclination is almost to go like a single malt direction, but I think dryness here, like part of like that part of the quality of the light that changes in the fall is also comes with the shushing of the leaves, and to me, there's almost like a dryness, right? The humidity lets up, and I think if this is going to be if there's going to be any acid in this drink, I'd want it to, you know, I'm almost leaning more towards highball because having some of that dryness and having some of the bubble popping is
mm,
almost like that humidity letting up, and there's some relief to that for me.
sure, okay,
Yeah.
very cool. I will say, as the person who is overseeing this, single malts are going to be too expensive. So let's take,
Nice.
we could put some single malt into an atomizer.
Yeah.
Oh, did you hear the bad news? The person who invented the atomizer just died. They will be missed. So
Mm.
we could put some. We could make a combination of, say, Lagavulin or Lefroy or something, as if you want that kind of smoky thing, or you could even go something like Cutty Sark or something that is that, you could have a little bit of that, which does have some of those golden honey heather notes and a tiny bit of smoke, and then kind of hit it hard with the single malt aspect of it for decidedly less than actually putting half an ounce of Highland Park 12 in it.
Right. Yeah, and I'm even thinking depending on your distributor, if you're in P and Dubs, right? So there's plenty of people doing amazing single malt up there. If you can get something local, to me that would just be a great opportunity to plop a
Sure.
bottle on the bar that's local and say, "Hey, and by the way, if you're visiting for a while, try and swing by here." Or, just it to me it
Yeah.
seems like a low pressure way to lengthen the guest interaction if that's something the guest seems interested in.
Yeah, that's super cool. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's put in a local micro distillery of some sort of scotch like some scotch like distillate that
Mhm.
has some of that, both honey and smoke sort of
Yeah.
to it.
So
Okay.
honey and smoke on the top. But now that means we can tug if we're going to go with that heavy-handed as the first hit on the approach of the drink, that means we can almost go in a slightly different direction and drier and if we're talking about fall, I think one of the underappreciated fall fruits is actually, the grape. So
Mm,
maybe we split that base or we lighten up that repo with a touch of pisco.
I think that's super cool. Yeah. Um, I can totally see, we'll probably put this into a cheater bottle where it's like half of the Repo tequila, a quarter of the pisco, or you know, 4/5 of the pisco, and then just a little bit of that heavy duty scotch
Mm,
that's going to be in there in the body of the cocktail, but not overwhelming the two other things. So, and
yeah.
we'll figure out the ratios of that the first time we make it. But sure, I like it.
Yeah.
Pisco, Repo tequila, and a little bit of American whiskey that's got some smoke to it.
Yeah, maybe some mesquite or something like that, since we're
Sure,
talking about tequila, yeah.
great.
I think that's both weird, but also kind of fits into the logic structure of fall. Um,
Sure.
where would you go from there? So now, knowing that we've now got this backbone to it, what does your creative process do to take this home and present it to the guests in a way that's going to get them excited?
Um, okay, so I think we know we're going to do it in a Collins glass with some bubbles. So we're
Mm,
going to do. I think we're going to go lemon over lime,
hmm.
um, because I think that lemon it plays a little bit nicer with things with whiskey specifically, and we don't want that lime to kind of take away from that whiskey thing because we still want that to be a prominent part of it, and Repo goes with both, and so does Pisco. Um, so then we've got the spirit, lemon. Now we need kind of what I'd say is we need one thing that is going to be we can make a syrup of some sort, um, and like going back to the either the quality of the light or something like that. What do you feel? Is there any
Mm.
fruits or spices or a combination of fruits and spices that you feel like? Is there a particular dish that you had as a kid that was first coming about in the fall?
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes in Pisco, I get really nice, I'm thinking of a it's quote unquote local Pisco here in the mid Atlantic, but it's because we have so many folks in the diplomatic service here that somebody launched a Pisco company called Machu Pisco, and I always get this green pear out of Machu Pisco, and
Mm,
so I'm almost thinking of like that's to me. I thought your point about like not whacking people over the head with fall is good, but that green pear is still
mm,
a fall fruit. So I'm thinking maybe some sort of like green pear syrup type thing. Get the peels in there.
yeah, I love
Get
that.
that
Yeah,
bitterness.
I love whiskey and pear, especially scotchy sort of things in pear. I think that's a great combination.
Yeah.
Um, so at this point, what I would normally do is I would pick up my flavor Bible and I would look in pear and um, see all of the different things. I think that the obvious bang you over the head would be to go clove, cinnamon, gingery sort of thing. Um, but let's try not to do that. We could maybe put a little bit of Ango on top or something to get just a hint of those, what we
Yeah.
think of as cold weather spices, even though they all come from the tropics and the hottest places on Earth. Um, I
Yeah,
think,
I just Googled it. So I
yeah,
mean, what popped up? You said you were going to your book, so I went to my digital book here, and what's jumping out at me right away is maybe a little bit of ginger, just to keep it simple.
100%. I think that is a really, really good way to do that.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking as well. Um, we know that Scotch and ginger and goes well because of the
Right.
penicillin. We know that
Penicillin.
ginger. Yep, we know that ginger and tequila goes well because of the El Diablo. Um, so I think that's a great idea.
Cool.
Um, with that, I would put in a little bit of the Montenegro because I feel like that would we make this we take the peels maybe off the pears and the ginger and we put it with a little bit of alcohol, right? And then we and then we take the pears, blend it in the Vitamix, strain that out, and put that in with a simple syrup of some sorts, and then add the Montenegro and skins together, because also the skins of ginger are so earthy, and I feel like that idea of the raking the grass always has a little bit of that like earth to it.
Hmm.
And okay, so um, then we don't necessarily have to put just soda in the bottom of the glass. Um, so um, we could put, if there's not a lot of bitterness in here yet, we could go
Right.
something as simple as just putting a little dash of tonic in there, just to kind of that's going to sweeten it up a little bit, but it's also going to add a little bit of moreish bitterness to it. And there's so many cool tonics out there these days that I think we could find something. The Mediterranean tonic from Fever Tree is the thing that pops into my head first. A little splash of that. I think that's going to go nicely. Um, so now we have to think about garnish, and if we want to float. We're already thinking we're going to do a little spritz of, we could do something that's partially mezcal, because we have a super smoky mezcal, or we could do um, the smoky scotch as a thing. So one of the other things I think about, which is called mirroring or juxtapositioning, is if we have something that's deep and smoky, like we need something that's bright as well on there. So it could be a lemon peel, it could be, I don't know if mint is the way, because I think that's
Hmm.
too summery, but we could have an herb there, that you'll kind of like give a little quick crush to and stick that in the top. Um, and that could be, I mean, what are your thoughts on what would you like to smell in in as you pick that up and put it to your lips to drink? What is the smell to go with the things?
I don't know if this fits in with the program, so this might not be super useful to you right now, but I think that the lemon is the aroma that I want, and I'm wondering if just to get a channel knife, and if we're putting the metal straw into this drink, if I can just curl that right around that straw and make the garnish, like, really put it in your face right as you go to take the sip, that lemon twist going right around that straw. It's subtle, it's not, again, not bang you over the head with the garnish.
Yep, I love that.
Yeah.
Cool. um I was thinking a little bit of oregano. I like, for some reason, like, because we have the Italian um, Amaro Montenegro, which kind of has saffron and a lot of those
Yeah.
Mediterranean things. Plus, um, Mexican oregano is delicious. I feel like lemon and oregano and a little hint of smoke, and you've got yourself a cocktail.
Yeah, and you could tuck that oregano right into, tuck it right in as you wrap that, you know.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, nice, nice. Well, I don't know if we have time to go through the whole naming process, but that was, I first of all, I mean, what a fun thing to call your job, right?
Totally. Well, the fun part is then to go make about 4 or 5 versions and taste them all and try to get the spec right. That's
Uh-huh,
super fun.
uh-huh. Well, I think that clarified a lot of the things that we were talking about sort of in abstract land. So I'm so grateful that you were willing to share that little project with us. I know we're starting to go a little bit long here, so I just want to ask before we do a couple of quick lightning round questions. Is there anything else you want to make sure our listeners know about the Elbow Room, or anything else in your world?
Um, it's worth the trip from Portland. It is really a spectacular room, and the staff is just so fun and wonderful and playful, and it's a great place to come. And if you're in the Portland area, take a few hours out of your night and hop on over.
Awesome, awesome. Well, with that, let's hit a couple of lightning round questions.
Okay.
Our classic desert island question. I've sort of retooled this one recently. So, you're gonna get to bring 3 items. You get 1 book, 1 bottle, which can be booze or it can be like a pre-batch cocktail or perpetually on tap coming out of some rock in the island. And then 1 personal item. What's your book? What's your bottle? And what's your personal item for this perpetual stranding situation, which you can interpret however you'd like?
Um, and I, and it's just a perpetual place. It's not necessarily an island, right? Because I mean, I think what I would do is I would have a ski chalet or some sort of warm, super warm, like cabin with a big fireplace, and then some sort of Vucare coming on tap with probably some apple brandy, a little bit of Copper and Kings, cognac-y sort of brandy, and then man, I don't even know. Wild Turkey 101 rye, a mix between Koki uh, Torino and a little bit of Carpano Antica, then Benedictine, and then um, an irresponsible amount of Peychaud and a
Mm,
couple of dashes of Ango and both an orange and a lemon garnish.
I
So that would
love
be
it.
my drink.
All right. Now your
Um,
book and your item.
Geez, a book. There's this book called Food and Drink Infographics by Simone, I believe is the last name. It's 2 feet tall and weighs 40 pounds. And it's just all of these infographics with all sorts of weird things. And it's a constant joy to look at because it's so beautiful and it's so interesting.
Mm.
If not that, because it's too heavy, maybe On Food and Cooking by McGee, like that. I feel like I could read that over and over again. If not that, Liquid Intelligence, because it's so funny. Um, I love that book. And then a
Oh, wait,
personal
hold on.
item.
Let me tell
Oh,
you, I was running a cocktail competition. This is a year, like a little over a year ago now. And I needed to make a lemon acid because I wasn't going to sit there and waste hours juicing lemons on the day of a big
sure.
competition with all these bartenders. And so I forgot my liquid intelligence, or I forgot to take a picture of the page. And I said, damn it. I forgot liquid intelligence. Now I got to Google this this lemon acid recipe. And I was in the a prep kitchen with 5 bartenders, and 3 of them look up and go, "I have mine in the trunk."
Yeah, it's an amazing book for sure.
So
And I think people think it's going to be too sciency and too intense, but I mean, I think it's the funniest cocktail book I've ever read. Like I love his sense of humor, and he can take all of these really intense sort of concepts and thoughts and break them down to something that everybody can do. So yeah,
yeah, yeah. Well, you should. I listen to Dave's podcast every week, so you should get on Cooking Issues when the elbow room's open and
yeah.
talk with him. So your item, last thing,
Like a cocktail item.
doesn't
Um,
matter. Any item.
oh,
What's going to get you through your
geez.
stranding?
Um, I mean, I say my Kindle, and so I have 10,000 more books. um, uh, I think that they're one of the like cold press juicers that you can throw ginger in, and it
Hmm.
like instead of the Breville like being all like having to clean that every time, like the ability to make both cucumber juice and throw anything through that, and this amazing like intense flavor comes out. I think that would be something that I would want for both food and cooking, for
Oh
food
yeah.
and for cooking and drink making.
Heck yeah. I love that. Next one. Have you ever taken a bite or a sip of something that has brought you to tears? And, these could be tears of joy or tears of pain.
Absolutely. I mean, all the time. I have things that like uh, I'll go with my first one. Like, I remember the first thing I ever tasted. I was 5 years old, and my parents had taken me to India, and we went out to eat and with this family, and we're sitting around eating with our hands, and there's this thing called pataka shak, which is basically a mustardy, quote, curry sort of potatoes. And I'd grown up on French fries and mashed potatoes, and I loved potatoes in general. But this particular, I'm actually salivating thinking about this right now. I remember being both so overjoyed and so mad that it was not something that I had had my whole life. Um, like, you're giving me McDonald's fries and this was an option, sort of thing. Um, and but it was just mind blowing how much like the flavor crept up into my head and behind my eyeballs and just became this thing greater than I had ever known what could happen when tasting something. And that
Mm.
was
I love that. I have a, I'm picturing the the righteous indignation of a 5-year-old. Like, my entire life.
yes, all of these years. Yeah.
Wow. Hopefully my daughter will do that to me when she is 5 in a couple of years.
Yes.
That's so funny. Okay.
Right.
Last one here. In a world where cost and food safety and like all the other things we have to think about as, service industry professionals don't matter. Is there any kind of cocktail or ingredient or preparation that you would love to inflict on the masses that otherwise is sort of out of reach?
I mean, if we can just make this like as broad as possible, where like even the laws of physics don't
Yeah.
matter.
Yep.
Like, I was watching The Martian the other day with Matt Damon and Jessica Chastain and all of them, and there is this one scene where that one of the characters is on a call with his kids and he's pouring water out and the water's like floating and he's going right, and then there's the Homer Simpson eating the potato chips in space. Like, it would be so amazing to create a cocktail and then in no gravity, and so you could like I don't know what it would look like if can you layer it? Can you make a pousse cafe out of a large thing and then you can like go around and sip on different sides? Um, I, that that idea of being able to sip something out of the air, I think, would be really, really interesting and fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Wow. And it's funny, as I was writing, yeah, as I was writing that question, I was like, laws of physics, yeah, let's get rid of those. Well, Toby, I've had a lot of fun chatting and getting to know you. I again, one more time, recommend to our listeners that a great way to do that is also to get your book. Um, Lots of other people who know a lot about cocktail books have given it awards that say it is awesome. I say it's awesome. So what are you waiting for? If it's not in your library, grab it now. But how can people connect with you in the digital space so that they can keep up to date on what you're up to?
The easiest way is Toby Cocktail on Instagram. If you want to shoot me an email, I'm Toby Maloney at Gmail. Those are probably the two easiest. And I
Amazing.
haven't
Well,
been, yep.
uh,
Thank you.
sorry for interrupting. Well, Toby, thank you so much for everything that you've given to the cocktail world thus far, everything that you are sure to impress people with as the Elbow Room starts to take off and pick up speed. And thank you also for being my guest here on the Modern Bar Cart podcast.
Thanks so much for having me, Eric.